Let's have a look at how to move the camera in the 3D Tiny House Designer. So to get started, when you're loading up a design for the first time, you will start in a 3D view. And to move around, first of all, when you just get started for the first time, you will see some tips come up here on how to move your mouse and how to move your view. But I'll just quickly tell you that myself. So if you left click into a blank space and you hold it down and you drag it, you will see the view pan. So the camera moves from left to right or up and down depending on where you move your mouse. Then to rotate the view, to go around the house, you can right click and hold your mouse down and then drag. So if you drag to the left or the right, your house will spin, and if you move it up and down, if you move your mouse up and down, your house will spin up and down. And then to zoom in, you can just simply use your scroll wheel and just point it wherever you want to go, and then you scroll to zoom in, and then you scroll backwards to zoom out again. And so let's say if I want to go to this side here, I can actually zoom this way as well if I want to move. So you would use a combination of all of those to quickly move around in the software. So let's say you would pan, rotate, and zoom to go into the right position. So one good trick that I always tell people is always make sure to go close to the object that you are editing. So let's say if we are editing this door here, I would click on this door and I will always go closer to this door here. So that way I can actually see more of what's happening. If you're further out like this, it will be hard to actually understand what you're doing. But if you're nice and close, you can actually understand what you're looking at and what you are editing. So that is the first 3D view, and that's the basic camera that you load in when you get started. We have another view, which is the walkthrough camera, and you can toggle that by just clicking on the walkthrough button here, and you will see the hints come up. So to rotate your view, you can still right click and drag your mouse like this, but instead of rotating around the tiny house, the view will now pivot in one spot. So it's kind of like you're sitting in a place and you're rotating your head. And now to move, you can use your keys. So to move forward, you would press W. To move backwards, you press S. To move left, you press A. To move right, you press D. So if you look on your keyboard, it's kind of like the arrow formation that you would have on your arrows as well. You can actually use your arrows as well. So you can also move forward by pressing arrow key 4, arrow key backwards, arrow key left, arrow key right. You can also move up and down by pressing Q to move down and E to move up. So this walkthrough view is mainly used to get close and personal with the tiny house and actually understand what it feels like to walk through the tiny house. So this is especially helpful. So let's say you are a tiny house builder and you want to show clients your design. You can actually go and record a little walkthrough for them by using a screen recorder and just showing them how every single room looks. And you can go into each part of the tiny house so they can imagine what their future tiny house will look like. And it's also a good idea to use this view so you can really get a good understanding of how the space works. So that is the walkthrough view. And we have one last view here, which is the 2D camera. So the 2D camera switches your view into, well, 2D mode. And now you can go and edit the tiny house in 2D. So let's say you want to click on this cabinet here, you can now start moving things around like that. And it might be a little bit easier if you're not used to the 3D view, but I would highly recommend for you to get used to the 3D view because a tiny house is an intricate space and it's super important to understand how everything goes together. One thing that is important about the 2D view, you will see the loft is enabled here. If you want to switch between the different levels of a tiny house and you do have a loft, you can actually enable and disable your loft to go from ground floor to the upper floor. I will also go into how all of these view buttons work here in another tutorial. I'll just quickly go back into the 3D view here. So let's say I have moved around and I've accidentally somehow moved my camera far to the side and I don't know how to go back. You can actually press the reset button here, which will bring you back to the normal view. What I would recommend if you're stuck in the 2D view, go back into the 3D view and reset it like that, and that way you can go back to normal. So that is how the view or the camera works, and I will go into view layers and into selection layers in another tutorial here, which will help you to select and view objects more detailed.